Hello everyone and welcome to WGBS TV Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. In this, our February 12th, 2019 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics including the cover art and release dates for Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. We're going to be talking about whether or not Superman will appear in the Shazam film. We're going to be talking about upcoming Supergirl episodes and what's happening with some of the stars there. And we'll also be turning to you to take your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss. And to let you know how all that works and how you can get involved in tonight's show, let me introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve. Now, since WGBS Live is all about Superman, we want to hear from the Superman fans that are watching us live on Facebook. So we've got a handy little guide right now that tells you how to do that. Around the halfway mark of the show, if we don't have too much on the docket, we'll start taking your calls. To do this, you'll need Skype. Get on Skype, find Superman homepage, and message us that you'd like to join us. Wait for us to reply. Please don't just call because that screws things up. And we'll try to get you on the show. And if we do take callers and you do get on, please turn your volume down as we are on a bit of a delay. Like I do this, and I won't see it on the screen for about 5 or 6 seconds, which is kind of weird. And it kind of messes everything up.
Yes, so don't forget also there for you guys watching and doing this via Facebook, there is a comment section that you can post your comments and ask questions, and Michael and I will keep an eye on those throughout the show and react to them as necessary. And a huge thank you to our sponsor and patron, Douglas Meacham. I really appreciate your support, Doug. Hope you're well. All right, well, Michael, what's this week been like for the Bailey household?
Oh, busy. We're always busy. It's just the way of things. But no, it's Superman-wise, I've actually been reorganizing my Superman boxes, the stuff that I have my comics in, because the old boxes are starting to break down a little bit. So I had a 3-day weekend. So one of those days I actually spent just kind of in the office organizing things, and I have a lot of comics.
Yeah.
Not as many as I used to, but there are a lot of Superman comics in this room right now.
Wow. Yeah, I kind of half miss those days and then don't miss those days now that I've gone digitally. It's like, that whole smell of the comic books and, bagging and boxing. It is a chore, but there's something fun about, having a physical collection, but at the same time, I'm happy to have everything digitally these days, so I don't have to worry about or go through that expense of buying new boxes and making sure nothing's water damaged and all those kinds of things. You get all those bugs crawling through your cardboard boxes, and you're just like, what the hell's going on here? But no.
And you're in Australia, so those bugs are like 6 feet tall and probably tearing the comics in half with their pincers or something. So
yeah, not quite. But I don't really miss those days of the bagging and boxing. But it is a task that you have to go through when you're buying those comic books and wanting to make sure that they stick around and are viable for future reads.
Yeah, I've really kind of cut back. I don't get variant covers anymore. I really only get the 2 main Superman books. And the comic shop I go to actually bags and boards the books as you get them. It's kind of a service that you get as being part of their little hold thing, first edition in Peachtree City, Georgia, just in case we want a free plug. No, Jared's a great guy. He gave me a Superman book for helping him move some stuff, so I'm all about that. One that I wasn't planning on buying, but it's nice to have. But no, it's interesting that, I wanted to get the variants, and I would collect all the books, the Super Sons and Supergirl, and, back in the 90s, it was, Superboy and Steel and Supergirl and JLA, and not anymore. It's just those main 2 books, so it's a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Now than it used to be.
I do miss going into the comic book store and having that relationship with the guy behind the counter and being able to chat with them and seeing the regulars in the store that you'd chat with and converse about the latest comic book stories and what have you. But these days with the internet, I have you.
Yeah. And you have all the very reasonable people on Facebook and Twitter and all that, and the comment section. So, to be fair, the comment section has always been kind of a bar fight waiting to happen. We'll just go back to the Smallville days when Neil would post one of his reviews, and it was just duck.
I guess it's whether it was message boards, those live chat rooms that you could have on different areas, whether it was forums or now Facebook, Twitter. It doesn't matter where you go. It's always, it's got the same feel to it. There's just people who become keyboard warriors who think that they can say and do whatever they please because it's the internet.
Yeah, somebody years ago sent me a link. Somebody has, on a news group, archived message boards from the 80s, from when Crisis on Infinite Earths came out.
Oh, wow.
And we have not changed. We have not changed in 34 years. It is the same arguments, just insert different names and insert different titles, and it's pretty much the same.
Yep, that is what it is. But let's push on and talk about some of the things that we've got on our docket tonight. Starting with Justice League versus the Fatal Five. We discussed it at length last week. Posted the trailer that was released. But now we actually have a cover for the animated movie that's coming out, and we also have the release date. So there's the cover to the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray release. We have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Jessica Cruz, and Starboy there on the cover with some of the villains surrounding them from the Fatal Five. Now we know that this will be available digitally March 30th. And then it will be available on Blu-ray on April 16th.
Yeah, this is a pretty slick cover art for it. I like that. Even though you have Jessica Cruz and Starboy, which are two characters that were not on Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, they look like they still fit in that world. And the more I see, the more the trailers that we've seen and this kind of stuff. I wasn't like super excited about this movie, and it's not like I'm going to run out the week it comes in, but this is definitely something I'm going to be picking up because it looks like a Justice League film that isn't wholly depressing like Justice League War was. I mean, Throne of Atlantis was better, but this is kind of more my speed, I guess is the best way to say that.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this one as well. It wasn't necessarily... I still don't think I've seen Justice League versus Teen Titans, was it? That came out... or Justice League versus Titans, or whatever that was, a couple of years back.
Yeah, I have the digital copy because it came with the DVD that I bought, but I have not pulled the trigger. It literally would cost me nothing at this point to sit down and download it and watch it, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah, it's one of those I didn't really, wasn't really on my radar, but this one, with the animation style, being Bruce Timm and the voice cast being the same, George Newbern voicing Superman and Kevin Conroy voicing Batman and the rest, it's suddenly kind of coming up in stature as far as something that I will check out.
Well, that's the great thing is that, these actors are, Kevin Conroy is almost 30 years older now than he was when he first started playing Batman. But he can just still play Batman. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that he's gotten older. He could gain weight. He could lose weight. It doesn't, George Newbern's the same way. Susan Eisenberg, who's very prolific on Twitter. It's kind of fun to follow her. But I think that's what's nice about it is that you can kind of go back and have this consistency. And to be fair, for a long time, Superman was Danny Dark for over 10 years.
Yeah.
On the Super Friends, and Olin Soul, like I think that's how you pronounce that, was Batman starting in 1968, going all the way up to 1982. So it's just this is why, to a certain extent, animation will always be the better way of adapting these stories because you can do more and not have to worry about an actor, getting hurt or age or anything. You can get somebody who does a really good vocal performance, and the animation is pretty much unlimited.
Yeah.
And because it's animated, there isn't a disconnect with what you're watching on, like Wonder Woman. Great movie. Last act of that film where she's fighting the CGI monster, I totally checked out because I know it's, an animated Wonder Woman fighting an animated CGI monster. So there's a little bit of disconnect, but when it's animated all the way through, it really doesn't matter.
Yep. So let's Justice League versus the Fatal Five, as I said, coming out in the next couple of months. So we look forward to that one. All right, elsewhere in movie news, the Shazam film is not that far away, and now we have more rumours about whether or not there will be an appearance by Superman. It had been on the cards, then we heard that Cavill wasn't coming back, or that there was some dispute over whether or not he would be included in this, and now the latest rumour from WeGotThisCovered.com says that Superman will make an appearance, but it will only be from the neck down, so it will only be something that is, you can't recognise who the actor is, or something along those lines. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there's another rumor that Cavill did shoot something for it and all that. It's just, if it's just going to be a thing during like the end credits where it's a gag, and you just see him from the, just see the Superman thing from the waist down, maybe that works, but it's just like, one of the things that, we're going to do one of our many, many comparisons to the Marvel films. Thor Dark World had this great moment where Loki impersonates Captain America, and Chris Evans is on screen for like 30 seconds. So he came in, put on his Captain America outfit, did that scene, and that was it. So it just seems like that when you do that, it's believable. Like, wow, that's actually Chris Evans. That's not just a guy from the back in a Captain America outfit, that Loki is impersonating. So not having him in it, I think, is a mistake. If you're gonna have Superman in the film, have your current Superman be in that film. Now, does this mean that this is the sign that the WB isn't going to have Cavill anymore? Was there just no way to have Henry come in and do that cameo with the time frame? I mean, I know that it's coming out in March or April?
Good question. I'm not sure.
So, I know we're a couple months away, but Henry's looking in pretty good shape. And you can do a pickup shot pretty quick. It's just, it looks like it's literally going to be in an auditorium, so it's not like you have to build a huge, complicated set. So I just think it's silly. I also think that people's reaction to it is a little over the top. Like, some people are just freaking out, and you're getting all the old arguments of, was he a good Superman? Wasn't he a good Superman? New cheese, no cheese. Sorry, that was me trying to do Richard Pryor at the beginning of Superman 3, and I just totally missed the joke. It seems like this is a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it does. And there's a photo you were speaking about of him looking. He's in Budapest there in the gyms for the Netflix The Witcher series that he's part of, or filming at the moment, and the size of his arm is just enormous. He's in shape.
Yeah, he's. And the thing is in The Witcher, he's clean shaven and he's wearing a wig, so it doesn't matter what his face looks like.
Yeah, we can get away with the no CGI stuff.
You think it's creepy having him look at that statue while he's working out? I mean, is that kind of like his...
It was a bit weird. I mean, I'm surprised that somebody actually had it there in that gym, or they brought it in because he's filming there. I don't know what the situation is, but obviously he's signing it for him, so that's a nice little addition to their collectible. But, yeah, he's actually looking bigger there in person than the actual statue.
Yeah, exactly.
So, good on him. He's doing well. Really impressed with his workout regime, and he's able to stay in such fine shape. So it's not like he's not in, like the rumor was saying, At this point, Superman walks into the room, but since Cavill isn't looking ready to return anytime soon, the film will allegedly use a body double that doesn't show Clark Kent's face. And as I said in my report, Cavill isn't looking ready. What do you mean he isn't looking ready? He's maybe logistically or contractually he's not ready, but physically he's ready.
Yeah, I was about to say that dude's in shape. I mean, maybe he's too big to fit in the suit at this point. I don't know about that. I mean, he looks bigger. Like his arms look bigger than they did in Man of Steel. Like in Man of Steel, he was big, but it was pretty compact. And then
to be honest, he's just finished a workout, so he is pumped like that.
Yeah.
That there's a whole thing. Yeah. So I mean, they give him 20 minutes, half an hour, and that'll kind of deflate. Not to a great extent, but mind you, it looks like he's just finished a workout routine right there. All right, well, let's push on and go to the TV side of things, where Supergirl is returning this Sunday with a new episode. But before we get to that, there was an announcement this week by Melissa Benoist and Chris Wood that they are engaged to be married. The two have announced their engagement via Instagram, with Melissa posting this photo of the two where she's obviously showing off her engagement ring right there on her left hand.
Yeah, I'm happy for them. If they're happy, I'm happy. I have no skin in that game, so it's just I think it's amusing now that celebrities announce these things via like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. But she's pretty big on Instagram as it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just, glad those kids are getting together. Don't think Mon-El's coming back anytime soon, but...
Yeah, well, she said in her posting this photo, yes, 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 it will always be yes. And Chris Wood added on his, the happiest. So they're obviously pretty happy. And as far as when they'll get married, well, Chris added on Instagram that it would be soon. And if you're wondering, was she previously married? Yes, she was previously married. She was married to this fella who might look familiar to you. He's Blake Jenner. He also appeared on Supergirl. He was in season 1 as Cat Grant's son, Adam Foster, and they divorced in 2017. They were co-stars on Glee before that, so I guess she has a track record of marrying co-stars.
Yeah, you work with people, I guess, long hours and such. Things are kind of bound to happen. I think what's nice is, even though they're not on a show together on a regular basis anymore, apparently their relationship was able to be sustained so that they're engaged. But it feels weird talking about this. I have to say, I have no problem sitting here talking about like costumes and characters and stuff like that. But this is like these two people are, well, it's not awkward because they made it public, so obviously it's out there,
right?
And she is Supergirl
or something like that.
Yeah, she is Supergirl, so it's news. But it just like I don't know what to say beyond. Yep, they look happy. That's cool.
Congratulations.
Exactly.
To them, that's probably about the extent of my comment on that. I've seen a lot of snarky remarks on Facebook and what have you, but congratulations to them. It's none of our business, really.
And I am sure Melissa Benoist and Chris Wood have been waiting with bated breath. What are the Superman Homepage Live guys are going to say about this? We need to hear congratulations from them.
Yeah. It's solidified now. They can go ahead and get married now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he was saying it was soon. They were waiting for this to happen.
Yeah, indeed.
Which is not true.
No, not at all. All right, as I said, we do have a new episode of Supergirl happening this Sunday. So we had a couple of weeks break, but now February 17th we will see Menagerie, the next episode, which is episode 12 of season 4. Will air on the CW at 8 p.m. on Sunday, February 17th. To refresh your memory, because it's been a few weeks, here is the most recent promo for this episode.
Your powers give you the potential to be a great hero.
My father asked me to take action.
What I need is for you to help me train.
You Kryptonians think you're so powerful on your own.
That was was amazing.
Supergirl, all new Sunday, February 17th on the CW.
So there you have it. That was the promo for Menagerie, and looking forward to this one to see, mostly Menagerie, to see how that villain comes about and how she'll be portrayed.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the special effects are pretty cool. And, you know, we get to see Nia in her superhero costume. So it's just, again, the show took is kind of back on the ramp of what it was kind of doing beforehand. I'm kind of glad to see Ben Lockwood again.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was a really compelling villain. And I'm kind of glad that they're bringing that kind of back too, so we can get more into that plot.
This looks like his son's going to have more of a role here as well.
That's actually kind of interesting. Now that he's in jail, you know, like the next generation steps up, and that's actually kind of sadder because then he's managed to poison this kid's mind. Though I'm sure there are people out there that side with Ben Lockwood, so maybe they think the kid's the hero of the show.
You never know. We live in a strange world. Well, speaking of strange worlds, the world of Smallville is almost coming back together in a way. There's a small reunion of sorts taking place at MegaCon in Orlando, where Kristen Kruk will be joining Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum at the convention, which will take place on May 16th to May 19th at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. And, you know, we've seen Tom and Michael on the con circuit over the last few months, but this is the first time that they'll be joined by Kristen, who was really, the three of them were really the center of the show for, you know, most of the 10 seasons.
Yeah, and, you know, it's I'm sure the sales pitch to Kristen was really hard. These people will line up and pay money to take pictures with you. You know, it's a weekend's work. But no, Tom, because, you know, we're on a first name basis.
Yeah.
He actually seems to really enjoy the con experience now.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, during the show, he would never do appearances. He only did that one comic. Yeah, he only did that one Comic-Con right before the last season. But even then, at that appearance, he looked like he was really kind of enjoying engaging with the fans. So, you know, the show's been over almost 10 years now. Kristen left the show in season, 6? Or season 7? Which season did she leave?
And then when she came back for the final one.
Yeah, and, you know, Michael Rosenbaum's been off the show well over 10 years. So I guess at this point there's like enough time that they're completely separated from it, where it's not something that they're continuing to do. So now it's, let's get together and talk about the good times and meet with people that kind of supported us through the whole way. It's like when we interviewed, not Miles, Al.
Al Goff.
You know, Al Goff, one of the original producers. He really seemed to have a good time just sitting there talking about Smallville because he hadn't been working on it for, you know, he wasn't arguing with a studio executive about the show earlier that day. So that's why these conventions are, to me, really cool, because they give, you know, some of the conventions like, you know, Dragon Con, for example, and these like heroes and villains conventions and stuff, they get people who are on contemporary shows, which is great. But to me, it's kind of cooler to meet somebody who did a show like 10, 15 years ago and kind of get their perspective on it.
Yeah, indeed. They've got that distance of time to be able to look back and at a moment or a time in their life that was pretty important, and for 10 seasons they were there day after day. So you know, a large portion of their formative years, you know, growing up as well, they were, you know, young people then. So, you know, while Kristen and Michael have gone on to other acting roles, and Tom has to a degree, he's more in the production side of things with his production company and behind the cameras and directing and things like that, rather than being in front of the camera. Although of late he was in, what's that show? Lucifer, that's right, where he's been in front of the camera again. So I guess, when you've got that distance of time to, look back and reflect on something, it becomes fun to talk about it because you don't have that pressure of, as you said, being enmeshed in it. So, they can look back fondly and talk about it and remember some of the fun behind the scenes stuff that maybe we're not aware about, that they can kind of divulge now that, time has passed by. So, looking forward to some of the stories that involve Kristen, now that she's joining these guys on the con circuit.
That don't involve her standing on an apple box to do scenes with Tom because she's so much shorter than he is.
So if you're interested in getting tickets, megaconorlando.com is the website to go to. All right, well, let's push on to... Well, actually, let's take a quick break at the moment. We're almost at the halfway mark of today's program, and then we're going to come back and talk comic books. Now that I've read and you've all read Man and Superman, the 100-page Super Spectacular, we can actually discuss with Michael what he was speaking about last week when he'd given us a preview of his review. So we'll go into the comic books right after these messages. Back shortly.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer, the voice of Superman and Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Just try one. If you don't like it, it's easy to give up.
Uh-oh, nicotine. I'd better move fast. Up and away!
Go on, kid, go on.
Superman, is it hard to give up smoking, or is it easy like nicotine says?
You no-good windbag, nicotine.
No, Superman. Leave me one. Please, I need one. Just...
That's how hard it is. That's why I...
And we're back on WGBS TV Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com. Now, before I do skip into the comic book side of things, we did a poll recently on the Superman Homepage Facebook page about this very show and whether or not you'd be, as our watchers, would be interested in still watching the show if we did it live via YouTube instead of Facebook. And an overwhelming majority of people said yes, they'd be happy to continue watching the show via YouTube. So we're going to try that next week. So next week, same time, everything the same website, except instead of going on Facebook, we'll be doing it live via YouTube. The announcement will still go up on the Superman homepage as usual, but there will be a YouTube video player there and a link to our YouTube channel rather than doing it via Facebook. You'll still be able to comment, so you just need a YouTube account, which most people have via either Gmail or from Google. So yes, be sure to tune in next week when we do this show via YouTube.
So yeah, if you have a Gmail account and want to keep on commenting, you'll have a whole new group of people to argue with. It really will. It's because I know the guys over at the Spider-Man crawl space,
right?
Brad and JR and all them. They've been doing this for, going to YouTube for a while, and I was on a couple of their shows, and it's a really kind of weird experience to kind of watch it go live to YouTube, and all that. But this ends up on YouTube anyways, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So it's like basically you're saving yourself a step at this point by not having to upload it, and I think it'll, it's not that we, don't appreciate the people that have, stayed with us through this whole Facebook thing. We got a regular group of people that come out every Monday night, Mike and Brad and, all them whose names are escaping me because of course they are.
Tuesday.
But I think, it's been a long day.
Used to be Monday.
But, it used to be Monday, but now, I just think that maybe we'll get him like a new batch of comments and maybe people won't eat each other too much. I mean, to be fair, YouTube comments are pretty bad most of the time anyway, so hopefully they won't be.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be civil. But I think it will just open us up to a whole different area of viewers. So hopefully we stick with the people who we've currently got and gain a few more. And I think that's what we all want. We want to try to be able to expand our show to reach a wider audience while sticking on to the audience that we still currently have. So yes, please join us next week via YouTube. I think that depending on how it goes next week, if it really sinks, then we'll be back here on Facebook. But I think we might even trial it over a couple of weeks and see how things go on YouTube. You'll still see the same thing, same graphics, same everything, using the same software that we do on this end. It will just be live via YouTube rather than live via Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, as I said, comic book side of things, Man and Superman 100-page Super Spectacular #1 was everything you said it would be. It was one of the... It's hard to not go along with what Marv Wolfman said about it being one of the best stories he's ever written, or he thinks it's the best story he's ever written, especially in regards to Superman. I think this is, as you said, one of the best origin stories. I mean, it's not an origin story in that doesn't start with Krypton, the baby coming to Earth, the Kents finding him in the rocket. It's all about him transitioning from Clark Kent from Smallville as a man, going to Clark Kent, Superman at the Daily Planet in Metropolis, and the struggles and the what do I do, how do I do it, should I do it, all the questions that you would ask yourself in that transitional period. It's so well done. Looked a little bit creepy with the stocking over his face a number of times, but it was really well done, and the artwork was spectacular. It really felt like a classic Superman art. It could have been one of the, it could have been Jurgens at times, it could have been Kurt Swan at times. It felt really, really part of, a classic Superman era.
Yeah, the thing about this is, if it had been published when it was supposed to be published, I think it would be a fondly remembered story, and it would be in trade paperback and all that. But really, by the time he finished the story in 2009, we're into New Krypton. Secret Origin is about to come out, a little over a year or so later. Though that had some delays, so it may have been, concurrent with this. And then after that, you had Superman Earth 1, you had Secret Origin, you had Man of Steel, you had the New 52. So you have all these takes on Superman's origin. And the thing they all kind of have in common is that there's this kind of, like, angst, but angst in a way that, it's almost like Clark doesn't want to do it, and he's kind of forced into doing it, and then eventually accepts his role. This one, you had him questioning, whether he should do it or not. You had him, kind of screwing up, and people thinking that maybe he's a threat. But Wolfman never got lost in that. No. It was all part of the story, but it wasn't the point of the story, where I think to a certain extent, especially in Man of Steel, it was all about people will be afraid of you. And Lex Luthor was fantastic. You really see that Wolfman was one of the driving forces behind the Lex Luthor of the 80s, and Byrne has even acknowledged that in recent interviews, that it was basically Wolfman's idea and he just picked up that ball and ran with it. I loved Ma and Pa, or Jonathan and Martha, depending on your age and your preference. being like a positive force, like, kind of pushing him along and kind of getting him on his way, but not being concerned, but not being overly concerned. They really felt like the Jonathan and Martha from Lois and Clark.
Exactly.
And it was just, I think that the fact that this story has got, I have not seen a single negative review. I'm sure there were people out there that didn't like it. There was a comment on the website that, the commenter liked it, but he preferred Earth 1. Your mileage varies. But I think the reason why it's so well received is the reason why people reacted so favorably to Rebirth, is that to a large extent, and again, there are people that feel differently, and I'm not trying to say they're wrong or they shouldn't feel this way, but I think on the whole, when you look at Superman's origin, when you look at Superman in general, there's a certain vibe that people want to get from that. And Wolfman gave that to us. And he gave it to us in a heartwarming, emotional story where you liked Clark. You liked the people in his life. And the fact that you don't get, as one of my friends said when we were talking about it, he goes, you don't get the hero shot, you don't care. Because the whole point is to get to that point. And you can do that in this kind of story, where it's at the very end that he puts on the costume. The artist, who I remember really making kind of a big, he was one of the artists on DC versus Marvel back in the mid-90s.
Claudio Castellini.
But yeah, it was a little bit Jurgens, it was a little bit Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, praise be his name. It was classic. And I think that's another reason. And I gotta tell you, he draws, I'm not saying this to sound sexist or anything, he draws one of the most beautiful Lois Lanes I have ever seen. That full page shot at the end of part 2, where you see her for the first time, it's just like, wow. And she's great throughout it. The only person that felt off, Perry White was a little too gruff.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I think he was a little too grumpy, but everyone and everything else about this story just fell in line, and it flew by. I mean, it's 100 pages, and it took me a little while to read, but I was just completely lost in it from the moment I started reading it.
Yeah, no, it was exceptional. It was really well done. A couple of questions people are commenting. Mike asking, was it written for a specific continuity? It was written for Superman Confidential, which was a book that allowed out-of-continuity stories from any time period in Superman's existence to be written and be told and published. It wasn't for any continuity. It was just, stories that could be from any particular point in time or particular type of theme that the writers could do. Unfortunately, the book was cancelled before this got to be completed and published, and therefore it didn't fit into the continuity that they started producing, or any continuity since, really, because things like Ma and Pa, or Jonathan and Martha, being deceased in continuities before he becomes a man, wouldn't allow this story to fit in there. The way Superman is revealed to the world is different in this to some of those continuities, so it's not something that could be inserted somewhere in current comic books or even previous continuities, because it really is a standalone kind of, not Elseworlds, but separate kinds of, different Earth, if you like, if you want to use that kind of mentality.
Yeah, Superman Confidential, if I'm remembering correctly, was supposed to be kind of like Legends of the Dark Knight for Superman, where you told like year one Superman stories, which they really didn't get a chance to kind of cover that all that much with the contemporary Superman of the time. So you had him learning, his limitations in that first Kryptonite story and his first experience with Kryptonite. There was one, if I'm remembering correctly, of his first experience with the New Gods. The stories were really hit and miss.
Yeah, indeed.
if memory serves.
Yeah. So, Man and Superman 100-page super spectacular #1. If you haven't read it, do yourself a favour, get it. It's an excellent read and an excellent visual experience as well. So something well worth getting and you do need some time to read it, because it is something that it's a lengthy read. I think it was intended to be 4 issues of Superman Confidential. Yeah. So that's the kind of length of book you're looking at. You're looking at like 4 comic books to read back to back. Yeah,
I thought one of the interesting things that they did was, because you don't really have Superman in the story between the chapters, they reprinted commissions that the artist has done over the years of Superman. So you got Superman through the story, but not in the story. But I think that kind of like satiates you a little bit, I guess is the best way to say that.
Mike in the comments saying that he thought there seemed like there was a page missing during Lois and Clark's meeting in the diner. She asked for his name and he never answered her. I think that was because they were interrupted by something, and so he ended up flying off, and then she ended up creating a name for him later on.
Yeah, I'd have to reread it, which I will do at some point.
All right, well, let's look ahead at this week and see what comic books are coming out for Superman fans this week. And we do have a number. There is Supergirl number 27 featuring the Omega Men, and that is available in a variant cover as well, which is an excellent cover. It's actually part of the background that makes up our website at the moment. There's also Superman number 8, John Kent Returns, the Son of Steel Unleashed is the writing on the cover there. That also comes in a excellent variant cover, which makes up the other half of the background of our website at the moment. Rob Liefeld art there. And then you have Wonder Twins number 1, the new Wonder Comics imprint, Wonder Twins number 1, also available in a variant cover. And I will be reading this. Interested to see just how these Super Friends from the animated series kind of come across in the comic book version for a modern take.
For a Liefeld drawing, that's pretty good. I don't really like the S, but the anatomy's pretty good on it, so I'm kind of impressed almost. That was a mean thing to say. I stand by it completely.
So I guess Superman number 8 is the big one this week. Other than Wonder Twins number 1 being a number 1, it's number 1 of 6, so it's a 6-issue run at this point in time. I imagine they'll probably go further if it does really well, but I was surprised to see that it was only 1 of 6.
I'm kind of curious if with certain titles they'll just do like a mini-series approach, like once a year you get another mini-series, like a 6 or so issue, because then, 1, you have the constant new number 1, 2, they're going to put them in trade paperback anyways, so that's going to find a new audience there, and 3, I don't know if the Wonder Twins are a concept that'll carry a monthly book, in all honesty.
Now, Brad's asking, haven't they been in comic books before? I don't think the Wonder Twins have been written
Yes,
they have? Okay.
They have. They were, I don't know if they were in the Super Friends book from the 70s.
Right, okay.
But back in 96 or so, they were brought into a book called Extreme Justice, and then they had an appearance towards the end of Young Justice. And I think the only reason they were really able to come in at that point is around 96 is when Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera bought like all the Hanna-Barbera properties. So they then were allowed, I guess they had more access to the Super Friends characters, because the Zan and Jaina and Wendy Marvin and Wonder Dog and Apache Chief and all these characters were Hanna-Barbera copyright
properties.
So, but yeah, they've been in the comics before. Just really, only one of them was good.
Now, as far as what are their powers, Tina's asking. Zan is able to change into anything to do with water, or so any water-based shape, or ice, or steam, or something along those lines. where Jaina is able to shapeshift into any type of animal or creature.
Form of eagle.
That's right.
Form of bucket of water.
Yes. And then she would carry the bucket and, yes.
Fly off, or he'd be an ice slide or whatever. His power was always a little more dubious than hers. She actually had some functionality where he needed somebody else to get him where he needed to go.
Yeah, and we can't miss on referencing Gleek, who was their space monkey pet, who really was more of a nuisance than any kind of superhero himself.
Yeah, because it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. It had to have a funky animal in it, so that's what they did.
All right, now let's move ahead to the merchandise sides of things, and an interesting one today. McFarlane Toys announced that they've entered into a licensing deal with Warner Brothers Consumer Products to produce collectibles, action figures, toys of all kinds based on the DC Comics characters, starting in 2020.
Yeah, this is not surprising because McFarlane Toys has been a pretty big company in action figures, for well over 20 years now. Plus, Todd McFarlane, to be fair, was an artist for DC Comics. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where one of his first big breaks. But I don't know. Some of their toys are good, and some of them are really. How do I want to say this? They break really easy.
Okay.
So they're going to be heavily articulated, but it's a good brand, and it'll be interesting to see what figures come from this.
Now, as you mentioned, Todd McFarlane was an artist for DC Comics for a while there. Created his own comic book line of Image, which most of the McFarlane toys have been based on. But now branching out into other areas, I saw, along with the announcement about the DC Comics characters, they've also got the license for the Harry Potter universe, so really branching out.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm sure they're going to produce some beautiful figures. I'm hoping that the distribution is better. Brad asks if Todd McFarlane did Extreme Justice. No, he was busy doing Spawn when Extreme Justice was a thing. But no, it's the distribution, because one of the things that is the problem with Mattel and Hasbro having such a large part of the market share is it's kind of made them a little lazy in terms of their release schedules. I mean, the Walmart closest to where I used to work that I would go into all the time had the DC Multiverse Rick Flag figure from the time it came out to they just started clearancing them out last week. So we're talking about something that was there for 2 weeks, and new figures would pop up sometimes, but it was never with any regularity, where I'm hoping with McFarlane Toys they have a better distribution model that they can get these toys out there. Now, I know that these are collectibles and that people are going to buy them and snap them up and then put them, leave them in the package and hike up the price and put them on eBay. But if there's a figure out there that I would like, for example, I really wanted that Superman Rebirth figure from the DC Multiverse line, and it never showed up at any of the Walmarts or Targets or any of those stores in this area. So, and that's annoying because I wanted to give them money and they apparently didn't want my money. So I just think that if this is going to work, it can't be just a limited distribution system and then, hiking the price up on the aftermarket. That doesn't seem to make any sense for DC Entertainment at all.
Now, it will be interesting. New York Toy Fair is just around the corner, so I'm sure we'll get heaps of announcements about upcoming toy lines and, different merchandise and collectibles that will be released in the next year or so from the companies that currently have the license with DC Comics. So, look forward to seeing what's in the pipeline for Superman fans.
Yes, though I did see in the wild last week at Walgreens, the Bizarro figure.
Yes, I saw your photo.
So hopefully we'll be picking that up this week. But yeah, it was kind of exciting. I thought it wasn't coming out till the 20th, but there it was on the shelf. So
cool.
I was like, okay then.
In other merchandise news, DC's teamed up with Gung Ho Online Entertainment to welcome back some of the superheroes and villains to Puzzle and Dragons. Not sure what that is, but it's a Justice League collab, and from February 11th through February 17th, you'll be able to welcome back the DC Comics characters to that world. I imagine it's some kind of gaming system of like Dungeons and Dragons type thing, I imagine. Anybody else out there know what it is?
I've never heard of it.
So apparently players will get access to returning in new dungeons, as well as be able to grab upgraded characters with reworked rarities. They'll also get a free pull from the Justice League Memorial Egg Machine, whatever that is. Yeah.
You keep saying things, and it keeps making less and less sense. I mean, I know that there are people out there that know exactly what this is and can talk about it, but it's just like the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, what?
Yeah. Gone well over my head. But if you want to know more about it, gunghoonline.com, and you can also follow the latest Puzzle and Dragons news on Facebook and Twitter. So if that's something you know about and something that you're into, then that might be exciting news for you. But for Michael and I, we have no idea what it means. Showing our age.
Somebody will write us a strongly worded comment somewhere.
Indeed. All right, well, that brings us to your opening to do a This Week in History, which I will play you your intro for 1 second. Well, here it is.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bars of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
Alrighty, I had to jump ahead a little bit this week because there was nothing in 1939 or 1949 involving Superman comics. But in 1959, on this week, Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane #8, which has a kind of a funny cover of a guy in a Superman costume in a wrestling arena, came out. Then in 1969, it's another Lois Lane comic, Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane #91, where Superman has been turned into some kind of monster. That was a pretty typical Superman story. 1979, 1989, nothing. But 1999 is kind of interesting, and Steve and I were talking about this before the show. Adventures of Superman #566 came out this week, but February was the month that during the storyline that was running in Superman at the time, Superman was basically stretching himself thin and trying to patrol the entire world, and to kind of show that, Superman popped up in other people's books. So Impulse #47 and Nightwing #30 and Titans #2, Superman just shows up. Nightwing #30 in particular was really good. It had Superman kind of squaring off against a character named Blockbuster. 10 years ago, we are in the middle of the new Krypton storyline. So we had Action Comics number 874 came out, which has Superman dealing with Mon-El. That was an Origins. Remember Origins and Omens, Steve? Yes. It's okay if you don't. Also, Trinity #37. Remember that series? Came out this week. And in the real world, and this is kind of a cool anniversary, February 12th, 1940, the Superman radio series debuts on a limited number of channels back, around the country. Sadly, it was also the day back in 2011 that Joanne Siegel passed away, but it was really cool today seeing a bunch of people popping up about the Superman radio show, especially since we were talking about it last week as you're nearing the end of your listening to it. So I may try to make another stab at listening to the whole thing. I know it'll take me pretty long, but the great thing about those episodes is that they're 12 minutes long. So they go by pretty quick, and you can blow through like 10 in a day if you really want to.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but that's pretty. It was a really light this week in history.
There you go. So thank you for that. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of today's program. We're a couple of minutes short of the hour, but we wanted to remind everyone that yes, next week we'll be doing the show again, but via YouTube. So if you want to find the show, we'll have the announcement up on the website with the links and the embedded video and everything, so that you won't miss it. So make sure you get yourself set up with an account there if you want to comment live via the show next week. But for this week, before we sign off, I'd like to thank everyone for watching tonight's episode of WGBS TV Live. Thanks to everyone in the comments there participating in the show, and a big thank you to you, my co-host Michael Bailey. Thanks, Mike.
Pleasure as always, Steve.
And a huge thank you to our sponsor and patron, Douglas Meacham. And remember, if you want to sponsor the Superman homepage, please head to patreon.com/Superman homepage. Now, the complete 1 hour video of tonight's show will remain available on the Superman homepage website and our Facebook page if you'd like to watch it back, or perhaps you missed part of the show and want to catch up on what you missed out on. That'll be up on our website and Facebook page permanently. Now, we'll be back next week, as I said, on Tuesday, February 19th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another edition of WGBS TV Live. Look forward to talking with you then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey. Thanks for watching WGBS TV Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.